For the latest news and updates on Tibet, subscribe to Yarloon YouTube channel. And don't forget to click the notification bell icon.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. It's such an honor to be with you today. Thank you for joining us. When I had only been a member of Parliament for a few months, I had the opportunity to meet with His Holiness and Dharamsala, and I didn't know very much about the Tibetan struggle at that time, but that meeting and subsequent conversations have been such an inspiration to me, in particular the way in which the Tibetan people who have been the victims of such extraordinary injustice respond with love, with goodwill, with a desire for peace and reconciliation. And I find that personally inspirational, and it's, I think, a key feature of what has sustained such support for the Tibetan cause. So be assured of my continuing support. We take note of the important points and suggestions made with respect to the Panchen Lama, and I assure you that I will continue to advocate for his release and for the Government of Canada to be actively engaged, and we'll review the specific suggestions that you made. I want to share that our party has advocated a number of points that are of particular importance around religious freedom. One is we've consistently advocated the reopening of the Office of Religious Freedom as a real center of excellence and a focal point for advocating for religious freedom around the world. And we see various ways in which the Chinese government is attacking the religious freedom of Tibetans and of other communities in China. We also have proposed in the last election having a publicly published list of prisoners of conscience of particular concern as a way of highlighting some of these ongoing cases. It's great to hear the Tibetan language spoken, because one key feature of the repression that we see is the attacks on language. The number of the fact that young people in Tibet now are forced into schools where the language of instruction is not their own language. So I wonder if maybe just to start off my questions, if you could speak specifically to the issue of language and education in Tibet and concerns about the attacks on the Tibetan language.
On the issue of language, I want to inform this committee that our language comes from India. It has nothing to do with Chinese language. The alphabets of Tibetan language is ka, kha, kha, nga. In Hindi, it's ka, kha, kha, ga, nga. So it's the same language that comes from India. Our religion also comes from India. With regards to language, during Mao Zedong's time, they had to use Tibetan language. There was no other way, because Tibetans don't speak Chinese language. And to spread their propaganda, they used Tibetan language. But during Cultural Revolution, a lot of things were destroyed in 10 years, from 66 to 76. Even before that, the previous Panchen Lama, the 10th Panchen Lama, submitted a 70,000 character report to the Chinese government as early as 1962. Speaking about destruction of Tibetan language and religious heritage in Tibet after the communist invasion of Tibet. Now, there was little freedom when Deng Xiaoping came into power, and Hu Yaobang also visited Tibet, and Panchen Rinpoche, the former Panchen Rinpoche, was also released, and Panchen Rinpoche was always a very outspoken personality, a leader of Tibetans, who did not fear persecution, even though he was under house arrest for many, many years and went through very, very repressive actions by the Chinese government, including putting on hat on his head and being criticized by his own people, shaming him during those periods. But after he was released, he played a very, very important role in getting back language and religion and culture on track in Tibet. But unfortunately, he died under very mysterious circumstances in 1989. And when Hu Jintao took over as party secretary, he imposed martial law, and there was much more control in Tibet. When Jiang Zemin came as president of China, he even named, at those days, he even named His Holiness as monks in wolf's clothing. So that was the kind of rhetoric that were being used during his time. And when Hu Jintao took over as the president of China, then he introduced dual language. That was still okay, because you have to learn other languages. But when Xi Jinping came into power, it's now one language, one nation, one language, one culture. Under this policy, the the Chinese Communist Party is striking at the very root of our identity, which is our language. Today, the Chinese language has to be taught from the preschool Montessori level. Tibetan language is reduced to just a study of a language. Even if you are proficient in Tibetan language, it's very difficult to get jobs.
I'm sorry, Sikyong, I need to just jump.